Hi everyone, since I haven't put out a video since before Christmas, because I forgot to take the camera along for New Year's, I'm just gonna show you all the games I got for Christmas this year. Okay, this one I didn't technically get as a Christmas present, I actually got it as a birthday present. Final Fantasy Fables Chocobo's Dungeon. It's already a pretty old game, or fairly old, it was released in 2008, and it's a Final Fantasy spin-off, as you can probably tell. It's a solo RPG where you go around in dungeons and kill monsters and eventually kill a boss, and it's really cutesy. I think you can tell that from the cover alone, but it is really, really cutesy. But it has really good music, it has really good graphics, I think. The only thing about the dungeons is that I got really stuck on the second dungeon. It's the water dungeon, because it was so long and there were so many monsters running around there. But now I've finally gotten back on track to finishing this game, and I probably will finish it at some point though. I just hope the dungeons will not keep getting longer and longer, because they're divided into floors and you have to find an exit to each floor. And the last dungeon was almost 20 floors, and it took me fucking forever to beat that dungeon, or the second big dungeon, because there are also other smaller dungeons that you can complete in the meanwhile. I just hope that the dungeons will not get any longer than that water dungeon, because otherwise I don't think I'll finish this game before June. And I'm just joking about that, but if it honestly takes that long, I might at some point just lose the motivation to finish this game at all. New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Somehow Nintendo just made a sort of a remake of an old video game concept that really, really worked. It's a classic 2D Mario platformer, the only difference being that it has 3D graphics, and while you would suspect that that would cause a little bit of a dodginess in the design of the game, it didn't. It's the same solid design that you find in all Nintendo games, or games made by Nintendo. This is on the Wii, I have like 4 games that have Mario's name in it, and this is now honestly the best of them all. This is the best Mario game I've played in a long while, and it's just such a simple concept. You know, it has all the classic power-ups, or at least the sort of, you know, Super Mario Bros. 1 power-ups, but it has new stuff in it. It had the Koopalings in this one, which was a really which I was really happy about when I saw those. I was, oh my god, it's the Koopalings. But then I kind of thought, you know, New Super Mario Bros. Wii has already been out on the DS, so were the Koopalings already in the DS version? I don't know, because I don't have a DS, and I never played it on the DS. But this was just an awesome game, and I already finished it, which is not because it's a short game. I mean, yeah, kinda is. There's only 8 worlds, then the special world. But the reason I played through this so quickly was because me and my sister started to play play it on multiplayer, and we just kept beating one level after the other, even though my sister kept dying a lot or causing me to die, because that's one of the only problems with the multiplayer, is that you can hurt the other players or throw them off the ledges of platforms and stuff like that. Okay, here's A Boy and His Blob. It's a remake of an NES classic, and I have to say that I really don't know the original Boy and His Blob so well. I played it very, very briefly on an emulator like a long time ago, but I thought it was really interesting. It's a really obscure title, I think, to make a remake out of, but it's been a good game so far. I think the graphics are really good, and also the gameplay. It feels a little dodgy at first, but once you get into it, you kind of start to get, you know, what's it about. And as for the original, I'm gonna be giving it a try very soon, because it's out on Virtual Console, so I'm gonna be downloading the original as well, seeing how it matches up to this one. This one I've played the least, unfortunately, at this point. I still got like 2/3 to go, but it's been a good game so far. Batman Arkham Asylum. Well, it's a Batman game. I'm a Batman fan, and this was just an awesome game. Okay, I can honestly say at this point that this was the best game that I got as a Christmas present this year. Well, last year. But it was, honestly, it's a beat 'em up with stealth elements, so you have to go sneaking around and beating enemies that have guns, and because you can get killed pretty easily if there's a lot of guys with guns pointing at you. But you got all the cool Batman gadgets. The cutscenes are really good, and you know, it's just a solid game from start to finish, and I really, really liked it. The only thing, it gets a little difficult, challenging in certain parts, especially when in places where there's like 20 guys who want to beat you up, and then those venom-powered super hulking guys that want to kill you as well. So it can get a little frustrating in certain places, definitely. But on the overall, it's just a really awesome game, and I really liked it. Another little thing that I could point out probably is that the character models, they went for that sort of realistic look, which I really don't like in video games. And as a result, some of the characters look a little stiff. I always think that when they try to put a lot of character detail on, or sort of realistic detail on, the character models themselves actually start to look a little stagnant. But luckily they did have a lot of facial animation for the main characters, and Batman himself looks really good. Although, I think a lot of people already know this, but Batman's brow is just really ridiculously wrinkly. I think they just tried to make it look like he was angry all the time, but there are just these wrinkles that are just not explained anyway on his cowl, and it looks really silly. But other than that, other than those tiny little annoying details, this was an awesome game. And here is Brutal Legend. Blood, heavy metal, and killing monsters. Sounds like an awesome game, except, as it turns out, it's a real-time strategy game. I was really expecting this to be just a solo hack-and-slash title, and I made that mistake based on the trailers. I'm sorry about that. But the thing is, I'm not a big fan of RTS games, and because it's an RTS game, I felt that the writing suffered, or the plot suffered a little bit, because the latter half starts to turn really straightforward. The novelty factor, the comedy is at its best in the very beginning of the game. But later on, it just starts to kind of wear off. And why is that such a big deal? Brutal Legend, made by Tim Schafer, the creator of Grim Fandango and Full Throttle. But Brutal Legend somehow just didn't quite hold up to that standard of writing, and I have to accept that simply because it is mostly a sort of a simplified RTS game with some hack-and-slash elements, with some driving segments, and with a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool cameo characters, and a lot of genuinely funny stuff. But I just felt that the comedy starts to wear off after a while. It wasn't at all like in Psychonauts, which was the last game by Schafer's studio, Double Fine, which I felt that it managed to maintain the comedy all throughout. The story wasn't as well, it wasn't quite as compelling as Grim Fandango or Full Throttle, but it was still pretty darn good. This one kind of disappointed me in that area. But it wasn't a bad game. The graphics were really good, and the soundtrack is it's a headbanger's dream come true. And there were a lot of funny locations. But I felt that the RTS battle, I just have a problem with having to manage units. You have to sort of keep everybody in check. You just gotta. Later on, you're literally flying around the battlefield because your main character grows wings at some point, and you go around and you have to. Just make sure that you have enough guys to beat your enemy, basically. And really, you just wish you were down there killing the monsters yourself, but you can't because you gotta keep your shit organized. So this one is a bit of a letdown, but it's not a bad game. That's the thing I want to point out. It's a really good game, and I do definitely recommend it for heavy metal enthusiasts. But as for Schafer's if you compare it to Schafer's previous games, I thought his previous games just had better storylines overall. But, it's a good game, and I just hope that Schafer does more awesome games in the future.